This heavy e-bike beast promises super long range, has a 1200-watt motor, front and rear suspension, and a price that makes it hard to believe all of this is possible at all. So, is it? Let's inspect. Hey, great to meet you. Some people say that the bigger, the better, and everything about this electric bike is as big and as remarkable as possible. In order to achieve the best possible comfort during riding, and electric bikes are always so fun to test. By the way, nice to meet you. My name is Michael, the TechMishka. As usual, some cool tech to be inspected over here. And this is made by ENGWE. It's called the X26, and they say it's designed in California, made in China, and we're here to thoroughly test it. The biggest advantage of X26 by ENGWE is for sure the price, around $1,800, which is ridiculously low given the components included in this pack. While I already have doubts about the quality of some of them, this is clearly much better priced than almost any other similar fat tire concept, regardless made by Cyrusher, Fido, Ado, let alone other non-Chinese brands. But keep in mind that if you prioritize reliability and top-end components, you should be ready to spend at least twice or three times more for reputable brands such as Specialized, Cube, and so on. And they don't really design such fat tire bikes. Unboxing is probably the most challenging part. This is by far the heaviest box of an e-bike I've ever had. Honestly, for one person only, assembling might be really difficult. To take it out, better cut the bottom side of the box and pull the cardboard up and start cutting these cable ties. So many of them, but nice to have because they protect from scratching during transportation. I've decided to mount the handlebar before attaching the front wheel, and in order to do it due to the weight, better put the bike upside down. Be careful with the brakes, you don't want to press the front one before the disc is installed. Then, it's a good moment to tighten everything else, adjust the position of the brake levers and the handlebar, install the seat, the pedals, then connect the power cable on the front so that you can finally power the bike on. So far, besides the heavy weight, we can notice the rugged construction, design which makes you think it's indestructible. We see the fat tires, which usually provide great comfort levels, and suspension, which makes ENGWE X26 look like a motorbike. There are smaller variations too, the X24 with 24-inch tires and the X20 with 20-inch tires respectively, and they cost a bit less than their biggest brother. This beast is apparently full of surprises, and technical specifications promise a lot of good things. A 1200 watts peak power for the motor, two batteries with total capacity of close to 29 ampere-hours, 70 Nm of torque, up to 60-mile range, a 30-degree climbing ability, 26-inch fat tires, hydraulic disc brakes, a Shimano 8-gear system, supported load is up to 150 kilograms, and weight of the bike is close to 44. Well, these specs, I know they do sound remarkable, because here we talk about a triple suspension setup, two batteries integrated in the frame, we have hydraulic brakes, we have in theory a very capable motor. So some people would be wondering, how is it possible to fit so much of good equipment within just $1,800? And the answer is that ENGWE have decided to cut some corners, especially about components you wouldn't notice at the very beginning. Because if we take the motor as an example, 1200 watts, rear hub motor, meaning that you have most of the weight in the rear side. It's not like the currently trending mid-drive motors, and honestly the output power, being just 65 Newton meters, is not that much. But in return, those rear hub motors are extremely durable and close to zero maintenance, so if you like the feeling, you're certainly going to enjoy it. Other than that, we have a 7-speed Shimano derailleur, the entry-level grade. We have two batteries, and I'm soon going to talk about the battery experience. As for the suspension, this triple suspension integration, well, the front fork is not an air fork. I know that it looks quite remarkable, but even though it feels spectacular, performance is no better than even the mid-range air suspensions. So yeah, there certainly are some things that you should consider upgrading, but what ENGWE say is that riding experience must be really fun. Acceleration for sure is. The motor is something you can immediately sense, and riding at mode 5 definitely feels awesome if you're enjoying faster speeds. It's backed by a cadence sensor, So, as opposed to feeling natural about acceleration, it kind of makes you feel as if you're riding a motorbike with electric motor. If you like the feeling, great. If you don't, maybe you're gonna immediately notice the lack of a torque sensor, something that finally becomes a trend even with Chinese e-bikes. And you may consider the use of hub motor being inferior to mid-drives, which is an opinion I'd back in this particular case. On the other hand, the 1200 watts peak power are consuming much more battery than delivering actual torque, so going uphill is no better than what ADO A20F Beast can do. Due to the increased bike weight, some of these extra watts are simply losing their relevance. This also converts into greater battery consumption, and from the promised close to 90 km per charge, I was rarely able to get half. But let me admit, it's been mostly pure electric mode, because it's so fun with this body, and top speed is close to 50 km per hour, just be careful. So the range is not really according to my hopes, and it's about 1/3 of the best achievements I can get with a 500 watt-hour battery on my Bosch backed mountain e-bike. Pedal more, use lower modes of the assistance when you're climbing hills, and range is gonna be a lot better. Interesting is the way both batteries work together, because we have two of them, a bigger 19.2 Ah in the seat post and a smaller 10 Ah inside the frame. Generally, there is no switch to choose which one is gonna be delivering the power, but you can for sure disable the second one. Recharging is gonna take up to 8 hours, so be patient about it. The suspension is also fairly interesting. ENGWE call it a triple suspension. The front is a dual crown fork, not an air one, unfortunately, so it is more attractive than effective, but the travel allows it to handle well even rocky terrains in the mountain. The rear area is equipped with springs and a shock. In order to keep the price affordable, ENGWE have used really budget parts for it. I do like the fact they're there, but at the same time, this all adds more weight and doesn't seem to be that effective. Going downhills on terrains I know really well has been very uncomfortable because of the increased weight on the rear, and I had to brake much earlier than usual. Speaking of the brakes, they're actually a good improvement for ENGWE's product line. We finally see a good hydraulic brake implementation, only 2 pistons per caliper, but it seems to be fine even as it is. With the remark that given the close to 45 kilograms of the bike, I would avoid going downhill at high speeds. The tires are fat. This might be good for the wheels because they're aluminium, and this definitely doesn't look like a durable construction. ENGWE finally opt for good quality pedals. They've cheaped out on the derailleur though. We once again find the entry-level Shimano Tourney in this setup. Hopefully, the aluminium frame is gonna stay strong over time, despite the short warranty period. While I can't speak about longevity, I've put it through enough testing on various terrains, and it's been great thus far. The handlebar is also well built, with durable stem connecting to the bike, comfortable brake levers, and this is a pretty awesome display. If you take a closer look, you're gonna notice that the controller even reports the load in real time. Since we're about to sum things up, fair to have a word about the drawbacks, starting with the weight. The bike is just too heavy, which also makes the first time setup a bit challenging. The lack of fenders, I guess you can buy such as an accessory, the lack of a torque sensor, and the lack of a smartphone app. So that's about reviewing the X26 by ENGWE. And of course, the big question, is it really worth it? And given the triple suspension, the rather good range, the dual battery setup, and all the components that you get for a price of just $1,800, I would say yes if you like the feeling of riding a motorcycle and if you don't have problem with any of the drawbacks, it is totally worth it. Furthermore, I don't think you can find a better deal covering the same grade of components. But I also believe that this bike has some sort of identity crisis because it wants to be the cool guy in the room. It looks like the cool guy in the room, but when it has to perform, it's just average riding experience. And again, if you like feeling of riding a motorbike, that's gonna be just for you. Probably the biggest disadvantage I can point to is the weight, because unless you're a heavyweight lifter, you really would find it hard to load this electric bike on a car trunk or something. And that's my take on the X26 by ENGWE. In case you have questions or you want to share your particular experience, be invited. The comments are down below the video. As usual, more information about the product and some ways to support my work here on the channel you're going to find in the description area. Thanks a lot for watching. Ride safely. I'll see you in the next one.